The universe was not now the senseless world, borne round inert on an immense machine. It cast away its grandiose lifeless front, a mechanism no more, or work of chance, but a living movement of the body of God.
I would say mechanism is a better pronunciation, not mechanism, but mechanism.
Mechanism.
Good, good. So let's see where we are in this extraordinary passage. There is a presence and a greatness. We can understand that presence and that greatness is everywhere. And the universe was not now this senseless world spinning around without any meaning. And he even calls it born round inert on some immense machine. And then there's a semicolon there because he says it cast away its grandiose, lifeless front. So the universe seems to us lifeless. It seems to us a chaos. We can't understand it with this physical mind. We can't understand that there's cyclones that kill tens of thousands of people and why they occur. Because we live in this body, life and mind, the lower stage. And so now this grandiose, and grandiose, of course, in this, I think I've spoken to you about it before. Today, when we use the term grandiose, it's in a negative connotation. Oh, he has grandiose ideas. So, but not in Sri Aurobindo's time. Grandiose was always characterized by greatness of scope or intention. Something grand, something grand. So this universe was no longer this senseless whirl. And the whirl, of course, something that spins around, rotates, revolving rapidly. And it's not born round inert on an immense machine, which is what some people always thought it was years ago. So it cast away its grandiose, lifeless front, and it was no longer a mechanism or work of chance. But what was it? A living movement of the body of God. How beautiful that is. Oh, so please continue.
A spirit hid in forces and in forms was the spectator of the mobile scene. The beauty and the ceaseless miracle let in a glow of the unmanifest. The formless everlasting moved in it, seeking its own perfect form in souls and things.
Yes, so we've got things to cover here. Let's go through the last few lines. We see that it's no longer what it seemed to be, but coming now to the front, we see that it's a living movement of the body of God. So the transcendent divine up here has cast himself into innumerable forms. But to cast oneself into a form needs a form, whether it's a stone or a person or whatever it may be. It needs a form to be able to cast oneself into it. So the formless has to take on the aspect of a form. But what is it? It's the spirit, hid in forces and in forms. So now he speaks of it. Well, what is forces? how does that differ from forms? Well, we can say that these forces could be the wind,
Mm-hmm.
could be the rain.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say that it could be the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So that spirit is hid in all these forces and in all the forms. But it is the spectator of this moving scene, this mobile scene. And he has a colon there to tell us he wants to continue. The beauty and the ceaseless miracle. Let in a glow of the unmanifest. Wow. Now, I think we've done unmanifest before, have we?
We have.
Okay. The formless, everlasting. Everlasting, of course, is a synonym for God.
Mm-hmm.
So this formless God moved in it. And then we see, as I go to the next page, seeking its own perfect form in souls and things. So what I can share with you is that even in the simplest thing, there is a perfect form.
Mm-hmm.
Look at look at a crystal.
Mm-hmm.
There can be many, many different forms, but each one has its own perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Each star has its own perfection. Each cloud has its own perfection. So this divine, who we can call God or whatever we want to name him, because the moment we name something, we limit it. He is great. God is great. Well, why can't God be small also, or poor and weak?
Mm-hmm.
This only comes about when we begin to do yoga, because all the philosophies of the past have contrasted good and evil, love and hate, and
Mm-hmm.
they find God is insufficient,
Right.
because how can he have hate
Mm-hmm.
if he has love? So now we see that this is the divine is seeking his own perfect form in soul and things. As a result of this, life doesn't keep anymore a dull and meaningless shape. So carry on. Carry on.
In, in the struggle and upheaval of the world, he saw the labor of a Godhead's birth, a secret knowledge masked as ignorance, fate covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent will.
We can only understand this passage if we can somehow grasp with this small mind that the divine is playing his own game.
Mm,
He's throwing himself into every conceivable form and force,
mm,
whether it's a worm or a Nolini, doesn't matter. So we have the line, of course, in Savitri, and in the worm foresees the coming God. So in the struggle and all this upheaval of the world, and there is a great upheaval of the world. And why is that? Well, it's because nature is constantly experimenting.
mm,
You know, she had dinosaurs for a while and Tyrannosaurus, and she got rid of them because she found something better. And then eventually she found man,
mm,
and man evolved, and now he's an unfinished being. because Sri Aurobindo and Mother have told us that there's so much above man that we have to become. So, in this struggle and upheaval of the world, now he sees the labor of God, of Godhead, of God's birth. Now, what is that labor? It's a secret knowledge, but it's masked as ignorance. So, behind that mask of ignorance is the secret knowledge. It's even fate covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent will. So let's take a look at the line. It says fate covered with an unseen necessity, the game of chance of an omnipotent will. So we have to read it as those two lines as one sentence, continuation of a sentence. So fate is covering. We don't know why it's covering, but he says it's covering with an unseen necessity. It has to cover. It has to cover this game of chance of an omnipotent will, and capital W on will. So Sri Aurobindo tells us that will is force of being in conscious action. When will decides something, it has a force of being that can effectuate, can activate something.
Right.
And he says even in the Life Divine that the energy that creates the world can be nothing else than a will. And it's the pressure of this conscious force on nature that is truly a will. So we can go on a little bit more.
Yeah. A glory and a rapture and a charm, the all blissful sat unknown within the heart. Earth's pains were the ransom of its prisoned delight.
Interesting lines. Because we see that here the all blissful is sitting unknown within our heart. And it is a glory, and it is a rapture, and it is a charm. But our pains of earth are the ransom to get this delight out of the prison. And the prison, of course, is something that is holding us in. Now they've just convoked the prison scene of Sri Aurobindo. Have you seen it? The Indian government have just instituted this beautiful building with the prison and everything, and Sri Aurobindo in the prison. That's very beautifully done. Okay, let's carry on a little bit longer. Or almost, we got time.
A glad communion tinged the passing hours. The days were travelers on a destined road, the nights companions of his musing spirit.
So we're seeing that he is experiencing all of these things. He's in these passing hours. This glad communion is tinging these passing hours, just touching them lightly. But it is a glad communion. And even the days are travelers on a destined road. Well, the nights also were companions of his musing spirit. This is, of course, Ashwapati and Sri Aurobindo. Let's move on.
A heavenly impetus quickened all his breast. The trudge of time changed to a splendid march. The divine dwarf towered to unconquered worlds. Earth grew too narrow for his victory.
Yeah. So it seems to us that time is an exhausting thing. The trudge of time, the trudge is a long, tiring, or exhausting walk. We trudge through mud, we trudge through sand, we trudge through rain and hail. But this trudge of time for him changed to a splendid march. And the divine dwarf towered to unconquered worlds. So I have some things to share with you here. Amal told me the divine dwarf is the psychic being in its initial state. Nalini said it is the divine as Vamana, as someone doing austerities.